There was a time when DC's animation was untouchable. Before the big cinematic universes was even established, DC was already doing what Marvel couldn't, telling meaningful superhero stories through animation. And at the center of it all were the DCAU movies, not spin-offs and not side content. These movies felt like real events, and wasn't just about heroes fighting villains. They took the characters that we knew and loved and pushed them further. Movies like Mask of the Phantasm didn't just show a dark, brooding character, it showed how vulnerable and broken he was. And movies like Batman Beyond Return of the Joker showed how Bruce and Tim's unresolved trauma affected their future. These DCAU movies respected the audience, and they trusted us to follow complex stories, emotional stakes, and real consequences, which ultimately made them timeless. But somewhere along the way, that started to fade. The tone changed, and the writing got worse, causing later movies to look the same, but not feel the same. So today, I'll be joined by Miri Dawn as we take a look back at what made these movies great and what eventually ended the DCAU, starting with the first movie, Batman Mask of the Phantasm. This movie premiered in 1993 and is still considered one of the best Batman stories ever told. This wasn't just an extended episode of Batman the Animated Series. This was a cinematic tragedy, and personally one of my favorite movies out of the list. The film starts off with a new vigilante named the Phantasm taking out multiple criminals in Gotham, and while Batman is trying to figure out who this character is, we get introduced to Andrea Beaumont, Bruce's ex-girlfriend who's back in town. And through flashbacks, we learned that Bruce was originally going to give up his crime-fighting life to live a peaceful life with Andrea. And as they become closer again, Bruce becomes torn between love and the promise that he made to his parents. It was amazing to see Bruce so conflicted. Knowing that his character is usually all about the mission, seeing him want to give up and be happy made the character feel more real. And while it was revealed that she was the Phantasm, using the identity to get revenge on everyone that ruined her life, it put Bruce in a tough spot and ultimately found him continuing on as Batman. The writing was amazing, and it was a great start for DCAU movies.
Mask of the Phantasm, in my opinion, is the greatest animated Batman movie ever made. I'd even go as far as to say it's one of the best Batman movies of all time. The voice acting is top tier, with some of the best performances we've seen from Kevin Conroy and Dana Delaney. The storyline is a solid 10 out of 10 and surprisingly deep for a PG-13 film. It's also perfect for developing the version of Batman we see in his animated show. You really get to understand his pain. The movie has so much soul, and that's the best part about it. It's not just a story made to sell toys or cash in on a brand. There was real intention behind it. You can feel the passion in every scene, and it was genuinely beautiful. The only thing I think could have made it even better is if it were just a little longer.
The next movie was Batman and Mr. Freeze SubZero. This movie was released in 1998 and featured a desperate Mr. Freeze returning to Gotham to save his wife as her condition became worse. And when he takes Barbara Gordon hostage, it's up to Batman and Robin to save her. And during the final battle, we saw Freeze have a change of heart as he tried to save everyone from the exploding oil rig. Now, to me, this movie wasn't as groundbreaking as the first one, but this was still a great animated film, and there was a lot of things that I enjoyed about it. The animation was really good. We got to see Robin and Batgirl, and Mr. Freeze had amazing character development, as at the end of the movie, Nora was able to get the help that she needed, and Mr. Freeze was finally able to be at peace, giving the tragic villain a happy ending, or so we thought. Nevertheless, it's still one of my favorites.
After the success of the Heart of Ice episode from Batman the Animated Series, it made perfect sense to create a full-length movie that developed Mr. Freeze's character even more, and honestly, it was one of the best decisions they could have made. The movie was fantastic. There are genuinely no real complaints. Every character had strong development, and the emotional weight carried through from start to finish.
For the next movie, we have the Batman-Superman movie, World's Finest. Now, I know that technically this is a 3-part episode in the animated series, but let's be honest, this really was a movie. This was the first movie in the DCAU to feature the redesign from the new Batman Adventures, as the story saw Batman and Superman working together for the first time after Joker made a deal with Lex to get rid of Superman. And I'm not gonna lie, this movie was an absolute banger. Watching the heroes go from one-upping each other to having to work together was just amazing to see. They did a great job of allowing both characters to be themselves without handicapping each other. It legit felt like two characters who were complete opposites of each other coming together for the greater good, ultimately making this another great movie in the DCAU timeline.
World's Finest was a really strong take on Batman and Superman's first meeting. After so many different comic versions and interpretations of World's Finest, this was the first time their team-up was brought to life in animated form, and they did great. I loved the way their dynamic was handled. The love triangle with Lois Lane added an unexpected but entertaining twist, and honestly, it worked better than I thought it would.
For the next movie, we have Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. Now, if you're from this channel, then you know how I feel about this movie. I actually don't hate the movie at all. I just had mixed feelings on what they did to Tim Drake. But let's get into it. The movie begins with a new Joker gang operating in Gotham. And after Terry has a brief battle with them, we find out that the Joker is still alive and looks exactly how he did in the past, which shouldn't be possible. And as Bruce and Terry try to figure it out, we learn of a tragic incident that took place in the past, as Tim Drake was captured by Harley and Joker and experimented on until he broke. And by the time that Batman saved him, it was too late, which caused them to separate and have a strained relationship. And as we head back to the present, we learn that Tim Drake never fully recovered, as he would transform into Joker without even knowing it, leaving it up to Terry to finally end the problems of the past. This was easily the darkest movie in the DCAU, as it showed how grim and traumatic a Batman story could be. To me, this movie is one of the best movies in the DCAU. Not only did it have great action scenes, but it had some great character development. We got to see Bruce finally repair his relationship with Tim Drake and see Terry finally claim the mantle as his own, making this movie easily a classic.
Batman Beyond's Return of the Joker was an incredible way to bring the Joker's story in the DCAU to a close. I completely understand why it's a favourite for so many people. What I especially loved is that it wasn't just another Bruce vs. Joker story. This time, it was all about Terry. He didn't just feel like a kid in the suit. This movie made him feel like a real Batman. Way more powerful, way more grounded, and so much more respectable as a hero. It was the perfect blend of legacy and growth for Terry McGinnis.
Next, we have Batman: Mystery of the Batwoman. This movie saw Batman dealing with a new vigilante that wore his symbol but didn't follow his rules, as she was targeting Gotham's underworld. And as Batman investigates, he finds out that the vigilante is actually 3 women, using vengeance as the motive. This movie wasn't as good as the previous ones, but it also wasn't horrible. The action in the movie was cool, but what I really enjoyed the most about this movie was the animation and the characters. Seeing characters like Bane, Penguin, and Tim Drake return easily made the movie better, and they gave us this banger. Overall, it was a solid movie. Following that, the next movie that we have is Superman: Brainiac Attacks. Now, I know that some people don't really consider this movie to be canon to the DCAU, but for the sake of this video, we'll count it. This movie saw Lex Luthor teaming up with Brainiac to try to finally defeat Superman. And during one of the battles, Brainiac injures and poisons Lois Lane, causing Superman to travel to the Phantom Zone in search of a cure. And when he returns, he's finally able to stop Brainiac and save Lois. Now, if we're being honest, this was one of the bottom tier movies. The animation was great, but the story wasn't really good. And unlike the previous movies, there wasn't any character development. Now, they did have a subplot of Superman wanting to reveal his identity to Lois, but after seeing a nightmare illusion, he decides not to tell her. So there really wasn't anything gained from the story. It could really be argued that they made some of the characters worse, as at times Lex Luthor seemed a little too comedic compared to his original self, and Brainiac felt too generic, making this movie feel like a waste of time.
Out of all the DCAU style movies I've seen, this is probably my least favourite. It didn't really feel connected to the rest of the DCAU, in my opinion. That said, I can see why some people enjoy it. It has some fun moments, a classic Superman versus, and a focus on his relationship with Lois. It's a decent watch for Superman fans.
Next, we have Batman and Harley Quinn. Now, I gotta say that this movie did irreparable damage to the DCAU brand and is easily the worst movie on this list. In this movie, we had Batman and Nightwing teaming up with Harley Quinn to stop Poison Ivy and Floronic Man from creating an eco-disaster, and it was absolutely trash. The tone was completely different from every movie that came before it, as it was now a lighthearted comedy with too many bad jokes. The story was extremely weak, and Batman felt out of character the whole time. Not to mention that Nightwing and Harley Quinn scene. The writers were not cooking. Like, you seriously expect us to believe that this belongs in the same universe as this? This was just horrible. Especially because this movie came out 11 years after the last DCAU movie. immediately making everyone wish that they had just left the DCAU alone.
Batman and Harley Quinn wasn't really my thing. I've seen better Batman and Harley team-ups in the new Batman Adventures and the animated series. I honestly enjoyed those way more than this movie. The film is super campy and leans hard into comedy. That said, I totally get why some people enjoy it. It really just depends on what type of animations you're into.
And for the last movie, we have Justice League versus the Fatal Five. This movie started with the Fatal Five battling the Legion of Superheroes and eventually traveling back into the past, where they would eventually encounter the Justice League. We also got introduced to characters like Jessica Cruz and Starboy, who were for the most part the main characters of the movie. Now, this movie wasn't as bad as the last movie, but the story did feel a little convoluted, oftentimes feeling like they were telling too much at once, as we had Starboy and Jessica Cruz dealing with their own separate mental health issues, as well as trying to help the Justice League battle the Fatal Five. And to me, for it to be a Justice League movie, the actual League characters felt underused. And while this movie was better than Batman and Harley Quinn, it wasn't enough to get people back interested.
Justice League vs. the Fatal Five was actually a good watch. I enjoyed it, but honestly, I kept thinking how much better it would have been if it came out back in the 2000s alongside the original Justice League series. It had that familiar art style and tone, but something just felt slightly off. I understand why it couldn't happen back then, but I really wish the original writers had been behind it. And more than anything, I wish we got to see the full lineup of the classic Justice League in action again.
From Batman Mask of the Phantasm to Justice League versus the Fatal Five, the DCAU had an amazing start, and after telling some great stories, the writing began to decline until it was unable to recover. And while some movies will forever be classics, others will forever leave a stain on the DCAU. But that's all I got for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Shawnodachi, and I'm out.